We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This is Cheryl from Dja country. Hello everyone, my name is Cheryl Downs. I'm your host tonight. My pronouns are she, her. We're talking football beyond the pod, episode 90. As per normal, we always talk about the Matilda Cap, which coincide with the episode. But before we do that, let's go around the room a little bit. Stefan, you've got the biggest week in football by the sound of it.
Oh, maybe.
It's incredible, maybe. Isn't it? All these fine games to go to. Spoiled for choice, I got to say. So, yeah, 2 young Matildas games and the Matildas game coming up. So, yeah, definitely going to be at all of them. So can't wait, Cheryl.
Apologies in advance to your employer.
Hey,
yes.
By the way, if you need not do NPL Capital Football Wrap for a week to do write about the young Matildas game, definitely do that instead. So
we'll see how we go.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Very, very good. Eric, you seem to challenge that Stefan's got the biggest week in football. Is that because you are stalking all the people in Canberra and all the games in Canberra and plus futsal and plus anything?
You couldn't. So I have a NPL commentary gig tomorrow. I'm just waiting for them to tell me who the camera operator is. Then I'm also watching a game tonight, but that's not an issue. I've invited to an women's season launch for Northern Tigers, NPL New South Wales team on Friday. Then I potentially have a women's call on Sunday, unless it's postponed due to players being with taking breaks from A-League women's season. But I've just been asked to be the commentator for the 2 Philippines versus Fiji matches that are happening in Western Sydney on the Thursday 7th and Monday the 11th. I'm assuming by the time this is published, that'll actually be official. They're running a stream on their Facebook page. I don't know. I've only just been asked about it, so we're working this out as we speak. So yeah, consider yourself one up, Stefan.
Yep, you win.
Yep,
I agree.
Congratulations, hot off the press. That sounds like great news for you, Eric, and well deserved as well. There's probably very few, if any, people out there who know more about the Philippines national team than you do.
Yeah, because I'm like their only
maybe Lockie.
Because I'm Lockie didn't keep track of those players though. But Lockie would tell you all about their colleges, of course.
Yeah.
So
that's very true. Well, it sounds like it's a big week in football for both of you. Madge, big week in football for you. You've got flights, although the flights to Townsville is that Friday that you're flying up? Thursday?
Yeah, going up Friday. Game Friday night, then off to Canberra on the Saturday, hoping that I can catch the Young Matildas game on the 10th. My sister's in Canberra, so I might have to do sister time, but I might try and get out of that. And then, of course, the Canberra game on the Tuesday. So, yeah, family versus Young Matildas, I don't know.
Sister at the football?
Oh, yeah, that might be the option. Have to drag her along. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I'm just not achieving enough talking to all of you lot and everything that you're doing. I'm not going to Townsville. I'm not going to Canberra, but I will watch the matches at home and I'll do my very best to get involved. I'll be doing some behind the scenes work for Women Onside Women's Football Writers Festival. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, or if you're going, get your tickets. If you're not able to go, it'll be a great event and hopefully a couple of people will get there to see it. It's our very first one. And then after that, next year, coinciding, I suppose, with the World Cup year, I expect it will be bigger and better. Anyway, there's room for 2, as we've seen across social media. Let's jump into our cap number 90, which is Katrina Boyd. Matilda's debut in 1996. She played for the national team until 2000. Her grassroots club was one which is no longer there, to the best of my knowledge, Campbelltown Police Youth Club. I'm looking at Eric.
No, it doesn't. Now, the thing is, because not every comp is affiliated through the state feds or the national feds, it's possible it still exists somewhere, but there is no MacArthur Football Association club by that name. So might have been merged with some other club.
Yep. as these things happen, and we talked to Neil Bennett last week about the Northern Redbacks merging as well in Western Australia. So Boydie made 29 appearances for the Matildas, 28 of them as A internationals, including 9 goals. And our resident football expert from that era, Grooves, has sent us some details just for some behind the scenes. You can try and imagine what this player was like that you may or may not have seen much of on any video highlights or anything, and probably literally video. Boydie, an absolute speedster and a terror up front. So it sounds like probably someone quite terrible, or if you were up against her, but she was a powerhouse of the New South Wales football system, and she did torment other teams at national championships. Sometimes she was in strife with the referees a little bit, as she liked to ask them questions, which is a very polite way of saying maybe challenging the decisions that they had made. Powerful off both feet, which is an exceptional quality back in that era, I think, and could also turn on a dime. I think we're going to talk about this later in the UEFA Women's Champions League, but there was a top goal turning off a couple of feet there. Also great in the air, a terrific character and loads of fun. She's talking about her being the life of the party at some national championships, and it's a bit of a theme that she just was pretty good on the dance floor. So Grooves, we would never have known that without your incredible detail. So a shout out to Grooves for all the information that she can share with us. And Anya Boydie, congratulations, cap number 90. We're heading into the 90s, and very soon we'll be getting close to cap 100, but that's just a number milestone. All the players along the way are very, very important. We'll put a link in the show notes, just a little bit in there about the Grassroots Football Project, where I go off and do some research beyond Wikipedia, which is not that impressive. And you can find a little bit more information about the players and whatnot as well. Talking about a big week in football, and we've got a big week ahead, but it's been a big week to this point as well, with the announcement of squads for matches coming along, but also there was an announcement that young Matildas, we already knew that the Matildas were having a 2-match series against New Zealand in Canberra and Townsville, or Townsville and Canberra, but there's also a 2-match series against New Zealand for the young Matildas. So if you're in and around Canberra, this is a match that we definitely suggest that you get to. I am not aware, and I'm not sure if anyone is aware, if it's being telecast. I'm looking for smiles, nods, thumbs. Doesn't look like it. So your best bet is to be at the game. We did talk to Grooves to see whether or not she would live stream off her phone, or maybe she can just talk us through it.
Oh, I would not recommend that for rights purposes. Just because things aren't broadcast doesn't mean rights don't exist. So
I'm pretending. She can talk on the phone and say, oh, that was a great shot by player, blah, blah. But potentially we'll have someone at the ground who might be able to do some tweets for us, or we might have official tweets as well. So it'll be interesting. It'd be great to see so many of those players who have either been in the A-League women's teams, and particularly for the New Zealanders who may have been part of the Wellington Phoenix squad. So just a couple of details. The first game is on this Wednesday, the 6th of April, 6:30 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. Stefan, I have no idea where that is.
It'll be my second outing there in 4 days. I was there yesterday. So it's in southern Canberra, central southern Canberra, near in the Woden area.
Okay.
Lovely little stadium.
Stalk Stefan if you can find him, stalk him. And then the second game on Sunday at 2 p.m. at Viking Stadium, which many people should be familiar with that one. A 28-player squad has been announced for the young Matildas. Do we want to go around and have a bit of a chat about any great entries that we see there, or any surprises, given that most of them, I think, have been playing a little bit in the A-League women? We've seen quite a few. There's a couple there that have, to this point, their club is just noted as Football New South Wales. So we may have seen less of them. Eric, I don't know your thoughts.
Stefan and Madge, go first. I'll take care of the rest of the squad.
Well, look, I'm pretty bad at this, because whenever our friends sort of sit around and watch the dub, we inevitably end up playing the game of how old is that player, and we always guess wrong. We always guess wrong. We always end up looking it up, and they're always younger than we think they're going to be. So there's a few players there that I didn't know if they were going to be that young or not. But yeah, so look, I think it's a great spread, and it's great that we've seen and familiar with a lot of these players. So that's why I think there'll be a lot of intrigue, and hopefully lots of people get out to the games to see how some of the upcoming generation starts clicking. And of course, this is the team that's going to the World Cup.
The young Matildas are going to World Cup, so not time remains to be seen which specific group of players. But yeah, that's we've qualified for the under-20 World Cup by a strange method, but yes, we're still in there.
So I imagine so just to be clear to the listeners as well, the squad for the young Matildas in this case is players born 2002 or later. So if you're just trying to work out, well, what's the difference between the Matildas? Obviously, that's open age, but any age really, because we've seen all sorts of young players debut there as well. And the junior Matildas. The junior Matildas are players born in 2000 only for this instance.
2005.
Oh, sorry, is that not what I said?
You said 2000, and I just want to make sure that everyone feels as old as I do.
I'm very sorry
for pointing that out.
2005. I'm reading sideways and trying to work out what bits and pieces. So, and I imagine the squad that we're talking about for the young Matildas who will head to the World Cup as well. At the moment, it's a squad of 28, and I don't imagine that their rules for how many players they can take would be much different to.
Yeah, it's 23.
So there would be
it was 23 for the last tournament.
Yeah,
so
there'll be a short list at some point. Mm-hmm. So, Madge, did you want to call out at least Jamila Rankin, who's
of course, there? Very happy that Jamila's in there. The only Brisbane Roar player, well, she's Northern New South Wales football, so it's obviously a bit of
she's really a Queenslander.
I think
in spirit, she's a Queenslander.
She's been playing with the QAS recently as well. So, but a bit of a gap there from Queensland. But we've had some peak periods before come through the system. But great names there. So Naomi Chinema from Melbourne City, Kirsty Fenton, Newcastle, Sheridan Gallagher, everyone's favorite. I can't
Gallagher.
say it, can I?
No, you can't. I recommend you don't.
Briley Henry. So yeah, some absolutely fantastic names in there. Going down further, we've got Charlie's Rule from Sydney. So yeah, lots of great talent, and it'll be great to see how they come together.
Stefan, from you, we've made a special ode in the feature image as well, just to celebrate the goodness that is coming out of the world in green.
Absolutely tickled pink. Thank you about that. So for listeners, it's something to have a look at when the article gets published. But I love this squad. It's a real celebration, I reckon, of the last 2 years of the competition, the W League and the A League Women's. If you remember 2 years ago when all our big name Matildas players were headed overseas, and then COVID came and everyone was wondering, would this be a development league? And as it turns out, we've had 2 terrific years and all these great young players come through. And this is, as I said, a celebration and the fruits of what we've seen in those last 2 years. So I'm really excited by what I see here. Of course, with my Canberra leanings, I want to call out some of the Canberra connected people in this squad. So Hayley Taylor-Young, I'm very, very pleased to see her listed as a defender in the squad. She's had a bit of a turning point season in the A-League Women, so I'm looking forward to that'll be a centrepiece of the article. I've just had a chat with Hayley not so long ago. So, but others include Sally James, who's Canberran, who headed down to play for Melbourne City, Emma Ilioski, of course, and Chloe Lincoln, who made every post a winner, so to speak, between the posts in the last few rounds of the season this year. But we've also got Jessica Nash, who made such a mark with Canberra United last season, and I'm sure there are 1 or 2 others there with Canberra connections as well. So yeah, we're really chuffed, really excited to see this, and it's free entry. It's a nice stadium. They do awesome food there as well. So get along, everyone.
Very good.
Yeah, make sure you get yourself a Javapi sandwich. I thoroughly recommend the ones at Deakin Stadium.
Yep.
Eric, do you've heard of any of these players? You have any insights?
Dale can go first. We're talking about the young Matilda squad.
Poor Dale just turned up and he's right in the hot seat.
Dale just turned up and he's getting smashed with questions. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would like to echo Geta Chavapi. From memory, the bistro at the Deakin Club, Croatia Deakin Club, is also quite impressive. So it does come with my highest recommendation. Traffic and public transport, a little bit of a pain, but you know, you've got legs.
And also, if you happen to be coming down from Sydney, Canberra, what traffic? Seriously.
Yeah.
That's
no,
not
exactly
traffic.
Right. Yeah. Public transport also. What public transport?
Yes.
In terms of the young Matildas squad, though, it's good to see that there's been so many players who have been rewarded with really quality W League seasons, who have been rewarded with call ups. I was also interested in the fact that, like, obviously not talking about the young Matildas, but that Marissa Vandermeer was picked for the young Ferns instead of.
Yes, I thought she was older. That was a surprise.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise for me. Not necessarily just because I think she's good enough to make the senior team, but I can see the logic around it, especially with the Under-20 World Cup coming up. You kind of want to have all these combinations ready to go for the tournament. But yeah, I think echoing what Stefan was saying, it's really good to see. It's good to have, you know, Canberra representatives back, or Canberrans back in the kind of in the national team setup. It's been a while since we saw the likes of kind of Ellie Brush and Grace Gill and Caitlin Munoz, and obviously Lydia Williams is still there, but it's really good to see so many players kind of getting picked from the region and being able to play at home as well. So yeah, it's good to see. We love getting matches in Canberra as well. Home of women's sport, we like to think.
Yeah, it's terrific. Yeah. Eric, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks. Okay, so first we got off. So just a brief correction. Yes, Stefan Jessica Nash does have a Canberra connection, but she is from Blacktown. So just want to point that out. Of course, the best thing is this: the third person we ever wrote a feature article about. For those of you that listening on the podcast earlier, I'm holding up my Darcy Malone Melbourne City jersey. So that's wonderfully exciting. Of course, the young Matildas coach, Leah Blaney's known her for a while, was instrumental in getting her to switch schools to Westfield Sports High School. So absolutely thrilled to see basically the player is pretty much the closest I'll ever get to a daughter in the squad. What else were my thoughts? Just echoing Madge's thoughts that we love seeing Sheridan Gallagher in this squad. We may not be able to say why we love it on this pod, but if you know, you know. I like seeing that they've it's not just all A-League women players. So we have Gemma Ferris and Daniela Galich from Football New South Wales Institute. We also had Leah Puxty from the club with possibly the best name in Australian football, Adamstown Rosebud. And I think that's, everyone else is in the dub. Also, big fan of Kirsty Fenton as well. So great to see her in the squad. It's also remembering for the actual, Aideen Keane, a player that we love for similar reasons to Sheridan Gallagher. Carly Johnson, a player highly rated up at Manly United in NPL New South Wales and was with Sydney FC. But it's just so many names. Sarah Hunter is another player that's come through at Sydney FC. And it's worth noting that the eligibility being born between 2002 and 2006, it is, while these two players are not in the squad, Kyra Cooney-Cross and Courtney Nevin are eligible for the Under-20 World Cup, and you'd imagine they'd be selected. Thank
you very much for that, Eric. A nice summary. Just a shout out from me to Miranda Templeman, who, friend of the pod, has been on a previous version of our podcasts as well. And a shout out to all the Victorians on the list, whether or not you're Victorian born and bred or you've ever set foot in Victoria. I will claim you as Victorian enough. Great to see it in there. And, you know, it's a...
Oh, no, plural. The plural works. There are two. Okay.
Too cheeky. All right. Well, so we will have Stefan go off and scout out and maybe come back next pod and give us some insights. Maybe we'll get a little bit of audio. I don't think that there's media accreditation for that match that I've noted.
Actually, there would have been an email by now. You're right. So
anyway, we'll see what we can do, and maybe we'll even try and see if we can get one of the players on a call with us. I don't know. Can't promise. Onto the Junior Matildas training camp. So as we said before, I incorrectly said 2000, but players born in 2005 only, a 22-player squad. At the moment, players from Western Australia are excluded just due to COVID protocols. So if you were to go through the list, there's no players in there from WA, but that's okay. There'll be more training camps in the future to get some visibility of how those players are going. Did anyone want to give a shout out to anyone in there? Because we've got a lot of content, but we can pause for a moment.
Stefan did.
Yeah, two more Canberrans, which is awesome. Nikita Perry and Bessie Reithmuller, both of whom played in Canberra United Academy the last year or two. Certainly Nikita's been in NPLW 1 for, I think, a couple of seasons. She's in a second season, I think, with the Academy and may have played with West Canberra before then. Bessie Reithmuller was, they're both attackers. Bessie Reithmuller was in reserve grade mostly last season for Canberra United Academy, and I think she made about 4 appearances in top grade, and I was at 2 of them from memory. And in one game, she was playing in an attacking midfield role, another as a 9, and was very impressive as a striker, central striker. I remember in particular one moment after a fantastic game, she made an overhead attempt on goal on synthetic surface, which is not only audacious but very brave. So both talented. Nikita is very athletic and really good on the ball as well. So congratulations to both of them for making the squad as well.
Yeah, exciting times. The only other thing that I would like to add in terms of this is only one Victorian on the list, and I know that everyone doesn't want to hear about Victoria and woe is us all the time, but there was an interesting post on one of the Facebook groups that I noted, just calling out that lack of Victorians in there, but maybe that's a good thing for the other states that everyone's doing so well. But from the perspective down south, we wonder whether or not there could have been a couple more in there. And I know it comes down to scouting and who's here and who's there, and it's not a be all and end all squad. Sometimes they'll have multiple, but come on, the Victorians, we'd love to see more of you out there.
I got some thoughts. Else? I just wanted Stefan to go first. Molly will be happy that the Bonnets Ben twins, Kate and Holly, from Tasmania, they're in the Junior Matilda squad. They've currently moved up to QAS, which allows Madge to claim them as well. It's makes multiple people happy. Mm-hmm. Players I'm just reading this. Players I've seen: Lara Gooch, who actually made her A-League Women debut for the Jets recently. I've seen her play for Emerging Jets as well. There's also Amy Hall, who was training with Wellington Phoenix. What was not allowed to sign for them because she is under 18 and it counted as an international transfer. And you can't have international transfers for players under the age of 18, even though she would only have been going from Sydney to Wollongong. Oh well. Caitlin Carriage from Melbourne City, Zoe Karapetis from the Emerging Jets. A player I'm really interested in is Megan Mifsud, who's like a really energetic right back. I've seen her for Football New South Wales Institute reserves. So loves a tackle, loves getting up and down the field. She'll be great. Also, Chloe Willando, another player from Emerging Jets who's impressed me when I've had the opportunity to call their games, and Harriet Shuttleworth, who's from Northern New South Wales but is actually travelling down to play in the New South Wales second division with the University of New South Wales. So she's one of the goalkeepers, and I do believe she got some first grade action on the weekend, which is great, for someone born in 2005.
Yeah, and further to that, around Northern New South Wales, around Maddie Howard coming from Adamstown Rosebud. So
yes,
good to see.
Yes,
both camps having an Adamstown Rosebud representative. I think that's also really interesting that I would assume that they're able to hold on to that younger talent and try and stop them from going to Newcastle Jets, trying to keep them in the system and improve the kind of players around them. And, obviously it's good to see players go on and do bigger and better things, but sometimes you want them to stay home and improve their cohort. But yeah, really interesting. Adamstown is like many teams in Newcastle, it's a historic kind of 1880s team, born of the coal miners. So really good to see them get some more representation.
Thank you very much, Dale. Madge, did you have anything that you wanted to add as well?
Oh, I think I'm just going to look forward to the NPL season that's starting this weekend in Queensland, and checking out the QAS team and seeing how these players go this season. So looking forward to that. Definitely got some names to keep an eye on.
Good shout. And we did have the Victorian NPLW kickoff this weekend as well, and we'll have to get an update on that later. I don't have one at the moment. Let's keep talking about Matildas. We've got the ParaMatildas, which were only just recently announced. They've been named to face Japan, Spain, the Netherlands, and the United States in the inaugural Women's World Cup, which is to be held between the 7th and the 18th of May. So that's exceptionally exciting to see that out there for the ParaMatildas. The Pararoos have been around for a little while. They've lacked funding, but this time around we get to see the women as well. Just a quick update on the budget. There has been a little bit of money, and we're all excited about money, right? But there's been a bit of money which has been put in the coffers for Football Australia over the next couple of years, 3.1 million to support the legacy of the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2023 by supporting women and girls to participate in football through the Mini Roos for Girls program and the Girls 12 Plus Football Your Way engagement program. So hopefully that's $3.1 million well spent and part of the development pathway that we harp on about so much to make sure that Australia or the Matildas continue with where they are in the world right now and don't get just overtaken by other countries which are looking into their development pathways maybe in a stronger way than what we are. Matildas news. I'm going to throw this over to Madge. All yours.
Yeah, so the Matildas squad came out basically a day after last week's pod. Typical timing. But yeah, not many changes from the squad that went to the Asian Cup, which I guess raised a few eyebrows around social media. But of course, we had Katrina Gorry making her return. But with McNamara, of course, is done her ACL, so out of the Asian Cup squad. And then, of course, there was a lot of conjecture about Alex Chidiac not being selected for the squad initially, but she has come back in, unfortunately, at the expense of Kyra Cooney-Cross for medical reasons. But I guess that means that we get to see Alex, and quite frankly, I'm happy about seeing Alex and Katrina both in the same squad. I'm all for all the more ball controlling midfielders we have, the happier I am. And especially ones that can get in and like rake a ball back defensively. Just, I'm here for it all day. So really excited about those two entries into the squad. I guess some questions were from a squad that perhaps didn't perform fantastically, or maybe below expectations at the Asian Cup. Why there weren't a few more changes. But I think Tony Gustavsson, in his press conference and in the press release, seemed to be indicating that last year was the time that they were spending a lot of time capping new players and seeing how new players dealt with the camp environment and dealt with getting some minutes. And they seem to have not necessarily settled, but they're now focusing on getting consistent game time for a core group of players. So it definitely does sound like they're starting to settle on a fairly consistent squad. And for someone to break into that squad now, I think they're going to have to do something fairly spectacular. And I think in the press conference, the advice was for players to get overseas and get minutes in competitive leagues and really show their wares. And I think that disappointed a lot of people. But at the same time, the dub, even though it's been fantastic and we've seen some fantastic development of players recently, I mean, it's still hard to compare, I think, the performance of some of our younger players. But then I'm sure others will have opinions on this. They may have seen these two games as an opportunity to keep blooding some new players and keep trying out new combinations and new players to solve some of the holes that we still have tactically.
I think some of the combinations is one of the key points as well. That's something that I don't think has necessarily been settled on as much as the squad might be in more pen than pencil at the moment. I think how they all connect and play well together, I think that's a key point. And I'll throw to everyone else in a tick. But the only thing that I wanted to really call out was just in terms of the inclusion for Chids, is that it was interesting the level of detail to me that Tony went into to talk about not necessarily why Chids wasn't in the squad before, but why she's in the squad now. And he went on to talk about she needed to find her love of the game again. And I think for me, I mean, we've had Chids on the pod. She's absolutely brilliant, but I wouldn't say that I know her. But I just think that the way that she plays, she's always showing that passion out there. So I thought it was an interesting call out, not only because of what he said, but the fact that he said it as well. Quite often you don't get a lot of detail around why players are in or out. But anyway, that just my thoughts. Dale, did you have some thoughts as well?
Yeah, the point that Madge makes around, go overseas and get some minutes, and I was just, hence my lack of dexterity in terms of using my hands and a computer at the same time. It reminded me of in 2008, before the 2010 Men's World Cup, Pim Verbeek said basically that, like, if you want to play in the Socceroos team, like, I don't care where you're playing overseas, but go play overseas. He said, if you train for 3 weeks with Nuremberg or Karlsruhe, I have to be very honest, I think that's better than playing A-League games. I saw the important games last weekend. You can see players under pressure, didn't bring the same performance that I've seen before. They're still not very consistent. Goes on to say, I'm not here to please the players. I'm not here to please anybody. I'm here to win the game. That's the responsibility I have to Australian fans and Australian football. And I think that that's kind of reflected in the point that Tony's making, is like, yeah, the W Leagues or the A-League women is great. And like, it's our local league and we love that. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, at the same time, if you look at the fact that if you take Sam Kerr, for example, the last season that she was here, she scored 480,000 goals for Perth, went back to the US. And yes, she was a top scorer, but like her goals per game return was significantly diminished because she's playing against a better quality of opponent. Same kind of thing when you see Alana Kennedy when she was defending for Sydney in the season before she left. Like, she was far and away the best defender in the league. And then she goes over to Man City or goes to Orlando, plays well in Orlando, goes to Man City, can't get regular minutes. Because as you said, like, if you're going to be playing in that top league, you have to be a top player. And that's what we want our players to be striving for. So it's been really encouraging to see players like, Remy Simpson. Chid's going over to Japan was one, but Simpson's the one that comes to mind. But a lot of these players going over to play in Nordic leagues or go and play in kind of the top tiers of Europe. Like Amy Harrison might be playing for PSV. She's getting relatively consistent minutes. It's not a lot of minutes, but she's playing in a decent quality league. That's a way to get noticed. These games are all covered relatively well. There'll be plenty of tape for Tony and his mates to go over. And if you're playing consistently well in that kind of comp, then you're going to be playing yourself into a jersey. But at the point that you make about the detail that he went into around Chids was, I think, quite interesting. Also because we don't kind of like, I feel like Tony's very much a hand on the shoulder, encouraging kind of manager, whereas other managers are kind of give you a rocket and expect you to perform. But I feel like he kind of, he's very vibes based was my point. And he understands that these players aren't robots and that they need to enjoy their work and they need to feel that they're achieving something and feel that they're getting better. So I think that that's kind of encouraging from a perspective of, this guy might understand the players, I think, a little bit better than we may have thought he does.
I think to your point about just go and play, or Pim's point, I suppose, go and play anywhere in the world, just don't play here. It's better than playing here. I wonder whether or not that proposition is a little bit different if we're talking about the world of men's football versus the world of women's football, because the experiences that we've seen for a couple of players is that the leagues don't provide the right amount of medical care and support. Yeah. And I don't know if that's specific. I don't know enough about men's football throughout the different tiers to say, they're fine up until they're in the 5th league or something or other. So I think the players, the women players still need to be mindful of
Agreed.
What's the complete experience that they will get.
And even when Alex Chidiac went to Atletico, for example, like, she was hampered by all those injuries. She very clearly wasn't enjoying her time over there. And as you said, she went over to Japan, didn't work there. She came back here, like, arguably probably one of the top 3 players in the league this season. And maybe that'll spur her on to go and look for another club overseas, or go and look to play for, like, I don't know, maybe for Real Madrid, or go and play for a team in France or a team in Germany, somewhere that'll fit her a bit better. But I think that the point that Tony's making around, go and find a team where you can perform and you can become the best player that you can be, that's going to stand you in better stead than, being the big fish in the small pond, I guess.
And I think also it speaks to, of course, what Auntie or the coaches following the Dub League grand final talked about. It's a short season, and then now we've just got a long NPL season. And, you know, no disrespect to NPL, but it's probably not going to get you to the standard of performance that you need to perform internationally. And Dale, to your point about how Alana Kennedy, when she last played in the Dub, if we go in more recently, Claire Polkinghorne, just 2 seasons ago, she was probably the standout defender. Now, they're 2 players that get a lot of flack playing for the Matildas, because guess what? International football's hard, and international teams' attackers are pretty amazing, but people seem to think that you can just click your fingers and bring in another Dub defender who's going to make it 10 times better. They're not. It's not to say that I actually think in 5 years' time, we're looking much better defensively. I think there's a lot of talent coming through. But for 2023 in such an important tournament, I hate talking about our defensive issues, but here we are. It's a bit of a hard timing issue, I think, for the Matildas setup. And they seem to have been decided to go with experience and bringing in some of those younger players more in the fullback position. So they're making a call, making a hard call. Whether or not it's the right call in the end, we'll see.
Eric, Stefan.
And as you say, the most important thing from Tony's point of view is that we win the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter who's put the shirt on, as long as they do the job and they win the tournament at the end of the day.
Eric, Stefan, did you want to have a chat, not so much, well, go for it and talk about the Matildas as well, but talk about the Football Ferns squad as well, a number of players in there that we're extremely familiar with their names?
I mean, yeah, I suppose I can start. Firstly, thanks for giving me the Football Ferns, just because I never thought I'd be bored by a senior Matilda squad that had Courtney Vine, but hey, there you go. You learn something new every day. I'm not sure that this is the right time to kind of narrow your selection down more than a year out from the World Cup, but okay. The one thing I will say about his point about playing overseas is that, I mean, I'd love players that do the W League NPL thing to make a senior squad, but if you've ever seen behind the scenes at an NPL New South Wales women's game, you'll understand why he said that. So onto the Football Ferns. A few players that catch my eye. Firstly, and I probably most importantly, it's another call-up for everyone's favourite shouty goalkeeper, Lily Allfeld, who's been so good for Wellington Phoenix. There's also Claudia Bunge, another great season at Melbourne Victory. And really, I think we can't say enough about how she held the Victory defence together, especially given the number of times she was playing alongside a makeshift central defender. So there's also American-born Ali Riley, who by Cheryl's logic, we should call an American, not a Kiwi. And yes, and of course, I love seeing former young Matildas doing well. So on senior international football, so it's great to see Rebecca Stott there.
I don't get the reference to the logic, but we'll come back to that.
You think Steve Culver's Australian, so by your logic, Ali Riley's American. So Olivia Chance has been doing well in Scotland, a teammate of Jacinta Galabadarachti, and of course, Madge remembers her from Raw. This is the one we like to see. Call up for the other amazing Grace Jarley from Wellington Phoenix. She was just, yeah. I think I remember a preseason A-League women quote. What did Gemma Lewis say? She could be the best player in this league. She showed, if she gets back into the swing of playing and, if her next club move is right, then definitely that's possible because she did some incredible things for Wellington. Of course, one of my NPL New South Wales favorites from Northern Tigers, Malia Steinmetz, is in, a player with a wonderful passing range, great technique, can central midfielder, but can drop in at central defense if you absolutely need to. And who a former Sydney FC player, a former Illawarra Stingray and Macarthur Ram, Emma Ralston, who's now in Norway with the Valdsnes. So, yeah, I know a few of those players. I'm looking to get more acquainted with the Football Ferns because we haven't seen them since 2019 and that tournament we made up so we could win something.
Nothing really to add there from me, everyone. I've just, two Wellington Phoenix.
Where's Paige Satchel?
She's there.
On the bottom. She's
definitely there. Sydney FC. Yep, definitely there.
Oh, there he goes. I've got Hannah Wilkinson. I forgot about Paige and Hannah Wilkinson. Okay, yep. Sorry.
Definitely there. Yeah, but two Wellington Phoenix players, and looking forward to seeing that number go up in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is where, further to Madge's point about getting ages wrong, I just thought Mackenzie Barry would be in the young phone squad, but she's too old. So.
Okay, it's time to talk about maybe predictions or an overarching preview of the match. Stefan, did you want to kick off with your thoughts around who do you think might be the winner on either side, the player who's going to make the difference to put them in front, bearing in mind that the Matildas have not lost a match to New Zealand since, I don't know, 1612. It's been 20 odd years.
I hope we don't have
it?
a Kiwi listeners, Cheryl. My goodness.
I don't know
if they were called
That
New
was
Zealand and Australia at the we last lost the game to that team.
Well, there was no football back then either, quite possibly. So, yeah.
I haven't really thought about it, but I guess I'm thinking you'd look at the players who are coming into these games with a bit of momentum. So whether it's from the dub season or from overseas, mostly overseas, I guess. So which players would fit that bill? I guess that's the question I have for everyone here.
I'd hope to see Charlie Grant get some good minutes. She's been getting a lot of minutes overseas, so it'd be nice to see a bit of a mix up there. Maybe a start for Charlie.
Yeah, I agree. And she's a very, very versatile player, can play almost all along the back line. She's the kind of player that I think that we'll need going into the World Cup, player that can play really anywhere along there. And I mean, potentially at holding midfield if push really came to shove. But yeah, I think that'd be interesting. I think as well, just seeing, I think we might be getting to a point now where the battle for that kind of right wing position is really now a battle in two between Hayley Raso and Courtney Vine. And it feels absolutely insane to say that, considering that Vine made her debut like 6 months ago. But I think that like going forward, you have to really look at that as a real battle in two. But yeah, in terms of players that I'd like to see do well, I think your point around Grant getting in there and getting a shift, I think is important. I think we also need to really figure out what's going to happen with the goalkeeping situation as well, because I think really there's probably like 5 goalkeepers that could be picked in this squad, and I don't think too many people would really have a problem with that. I think you could probably chuck Wyman and Dumont in as your 4th and 5th choice as well. And I don't think too many people would bat an eyelid at that. So, we kind of really, and that was one thing that we saw recently. We had in the series with America, we had Tegan Micah and Lydia Williams play, if I remember correctly. And then went into the Asian Cup with again, inconsistency in goal. So I'll be interested to see where things go there. They're all playing. So, this opportunity. Lydia's obviously not playing as much as we'd like for Arsenal at the moment.
Eric, did you have a prediction?
1-0 to the Ferns with a goal from Rebecca Stott. That would make me so happy.
Ooh, very nice.
Good prediction.
Yes.
Bad result.
I predict humidity and that helping out the Matildas in Townsville.
Mary Fowler to be the only person with, who doesn't lose like 30 kilos of water weight.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, she the only Northern
She-
Queenslander? Or someone who's players?
Mary Fowler, who
Yeah, Mary Fowler, I think, is the only North Queenslander. There's a
That's-
bunch of
yeah.
Queenslanders in the
Yeah.
squad. I think
Yeah,
there's 9
But
Queenslanders
Madge
in the
would know
squad.
it's different in North Queensland, isn't it?
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
big difference between Brisbane and Townsville. So,
I haven't been further than Mackay, so
yeah. Well, we can
Yeah.
ask you just how that was for you next week.
yes, we'll see.
Well,
Okay.
when I said
I'm
predictions,
going to send
like,
Madge and a Cobra so that she blends in.
take fly spray or something or other. I
Yes.
don't really know. When I said predictions, I kind of meant maybe the score, but I think the team have given you a much better version of predictions than the score. Let's keep moving around the world then, because we've already been talking quite a bit on the pod, but there's plenty of other things that happen. The dub has finished for the season, but it's only now that we're seeing some of the medalists come out from the recognition within the club. So Alex Chidiac won the Victory medal. Congratulations to Chids. I don't know if there's anything else. There's nothing else in my show notes. All
Okay,
right.
I didn't see anything. So,
Well, that leads me to throw to Eric and Dale to talk about the Champions League, if you wish.
So how do we split? Did you watch WSL, Dale? Because I only watched highlights of 2 of the 6 games.
I did not. unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we'll keep it brief then. We've got plenty of other stuff to keep going through.
So did you watch Champions League though?
I did watch some of the Champions League.
Okay,
we can go through that. So yes, obviously the biggest game of the round was Barcelona 5, Real Madrid 2 at Camp Nou, 91,000 in attendance, a new world record for women's club football, or women's football, I believe, maybe the biggest crowd of all time.
No, I don't think it beat the US World Cup.
Oh, no. Yeah, that wouldn't have been.
It did, didn't it?
It did?
No, I think the Women's World Cup was
at the Rose Bowl?
Definitely the biggest.
Hang on. Let's actually, you've given me a research project. Carry on.
Yes. Anyway, Real Madrid went 2-1 up, and then Barcelona decided to not lose. Real Madrid's second goal, if you do get a chance to see that, just like softly chipping the goalkeeper from 40 yards, as cool as you like. One of the things that I did enjoy, and I know that we've said this a bunch on the pod, but like Real Madrid getting booed and whistled every time they touch the ball by 90,000 people. Like,
wow.
If that's your first time playing in front of more than like 1,500, because Madrid play at a really small ground, will be so intimidating.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Barcelona go through to the next round. PSG 2, Bayern 2. After extra time, PSG scored. It was 2-1 at full time, so it was 3-3 on aggregate. Yeah. There is no away goals rule in European club football anymore, which is great for those of us who don't like maths. And then PSG scored an extra time winner to go through on aggregate. Wolfsburg 2, Arsenal 0.
Sorry, there was an interesting point in PSG Bayern. I noticed Bayern only had 4 players on the bench and then only used one of them. Only one came onto the field. So I hope everyone's okay. That's not ideal, obviously.
Yeah, especially for a European game. Usually they have 7 subs on the bench. Yeah. Wolfsburg 2, Arsenal 0 at the Wolfsburg Arena. Wolfsburg go through 3-1 on aggregate, and huge result. Big turnaround in the fourth game. Lyon 3, Juve 1. Lyon go through 4-3 on aggregate. They were down 2-1 on aggregate from the first leg, but really big turnaround for them. So the next set of matches is in about 3 weeks' time, 23rd and 30th of this month. What do they call it? They call it the shock in French. Lyon versus PSG in one leg, and Barcelona versus Wolfsburg. In one tie, and Barcelona versus Wolfsburg in the other. Should be a super set of semi-finals. And then unfortunately for Juventus, they're hosting the final on the 22nd of May at Juventus Stadium. So if you do get a chance to watch the highlights from any of those games, they come with my highest recommendation. The PSG Bayern game was fantastic as well.
And it doesn't matter what language you listen to, because they're all great.
There are, if it tickles your fancy, there are 4 languages available for highlights now for all of the games. So you can listen to them and compare and contrast. You can become more worldly, which I think is important.
Yes. How's your research going, Eric?
Okay, so congratulations, Cheryl. You were right. The 91,553 for Barcelona Real Madrid, higher than the 1999 Women's World Cup final crowd of 90,185. So it's important for me to pay credit to you when you're right, because I spend most of my time trying to annoy you here. So
he does a very good job of it.
Yes, I am very good at annoying people. It is true. By the way, this is how I behave when I do comms for MPL TV. So it's not an act. But what else was I going to say? Once again, if you're not already, get on. It's spelled DAZN, but I believe it's pronounced DAZN. But anyway, DAZN YouTube, which has everything that they've all just been talking about in terms of highlights and games in multiple languages.
Thank you very much.
I'll go through the WSL results. I'll just go through them quickly. So Birmingham 0, Everton 0.
Entertainment 0. Sorry.
This game shouldn't have been played. Just cast this game into the fire depths of hell. West Ham 0, Manchester City 2, and Manchester United 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 0. Leicester City 0, Arsenal 5.
Only 5 this weekend.
They've copped 15 goals in the last week. So let's go easy on Leicester at the moment. Also, their best players out with an ACL for the season. Yeah. Chelsea 5, 2 of which were to Sam Kerr. Beat Reading 0, and that was at Kingsmeadow. And I believe Spurs v Villa was postponed, but I'm unsure of that one. I think there might be some COVID cases.
That appeared on my live score app. I got a 1-0 win to 1-0 win to Aston Villa over Tottenham, 88th minute winner from Ramona Petzelberger. So
Oh, we love to see it. I can do the rest of Europe.
We'll have to update our show notes, and that's round 19 of 22 in the W as well. So it's ticking along over there, as are many of them.
We kind of know what's happening at the bottom end of the table. Birmingham will most likely go down at this stage, but the top, it's really heating up. I think it's kind of a race in 4 at this point between Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City, and Manchester United, and maybe even Spurs. Who knows?
Lovely.
Who wants to do Europe?
I can.
No, he can't. His internet
Fortunately,
has gone.
I have been very lax on my Scotland. What? Oh, I could just say whatever I want. My back?
Yeah, you're all good.
Yeah, there we go. So thankfully, I remembered this. So there was no Scottish League action, but there was Scottish Cup action. Now, unfortunately, Aoife Colville has done her ACL, so wishing Ireland's own Aoife Colville all the best with that one. But her Glasgow City side had a pretty easy 8-0 win over Stirling Uni in the Scottish Cup quarterfinals. And thankfully, I just remembered to look this up. Jacinta Galabarachi's Celtic and Liv Chance's Celtic as well. They won 2-0 over Aberdeen in their Cup quarterfinal. So on to France. So Mary Fowler's Montpellier lost 2-1 at home to Stade de Reims, with Mary Fowler coming on in the 65th minutes. Ellie Carpenter's Lyon won 2-0 away against Guingamp, but she didn't play, wasn't in the squad, which suggests an early release for international duty. In Italy, it's been a rough season for Aussie duo over there at Pomigliano. They lost 3-0 at home to Sassuolo. Ella Mastrantonio played the first half. Ivy Luik was an unused sub. In the Netherlands, we spoke about her briefly earlier. Amy Harrison started and played 82 minutes as PSV defeated Heerenveen by 1-0. Over in Serbia, it's another great result. I believe that's 17 wins from 17 now for Spartak Subotica. And Vesna Milivojevic scored the opener in their 4-0 win over Masinac. And I did also look at the NWSL while I'm on a roll. So it was San Diego Wave for Angel City 2, but Emily Van Egmond didn't play for the Wave, which, like Ellie Carpenter, suggests an early release for Matilda's duty.
I wonder if they have a name for that rivalry yet. Because
it's both Southern California.
Yeah, I saw. I can't remember what it was. I did see a graphic. I can't remember what it was though.
The Los Angeles men's derby is known as El Trafico, which is
that's sensational. Oh my god!
It definitely wasn't that, but there's definitely one out there.
We'll have to make one up.
Yeah.
Stefan, you've got some updates, hopefully, from the Nordic Football League leagues are just kicking goals right now and getting busy, keeping you busy.
It is getting busy, yes. We've got news from all 4 of the Nordic leagues that are usually in scope for our Nordic wraps.
Yes.
So we've got some news from Aussies in Iceland as well, but I'll go over that in a minute. So over in Norway, in the Toppserien, it was round 3, and Kali Rossbakken came on for about the last 5 minutes in extra time in their top-notch game against Brann. And our Brann were Sandviken before, so another top 4 side from last season. So it was their first real test for LSK, and it was all going pretty well for them, I have to say. They competed very well in this game. Brand's goal difference before this game was like +10, so it was going to be a real test. Fiona Wurt made her debut in the 78th minute, but unfortunately, after about 5 minutes on the field, she brought down one of the Brann attackers in the box, and yes, and a penalty was given. And
we should agree. We should decide on something. So when she does something good, she's an honorary Aussie, and when she does,
yours, Stefan, keep going.
He's frozen, but yeah, that sounds good, Eric. That sounds awesome. So yeah, that leaves LSK Kibina in 4th place and Brann on top. Over in Sweden, it was round 2 of the Damallsvenkan. And Polks played a full game for Wso in their 1-1 draw against Tegan Micah and Charlie Grant's Rosengard. So Tegan and Polks were both played full games. Obviously, Katrina Gorry is not there yet for for Wso, and Charlie Grant came on in the 83rd minute for Rosengard. So the 1-1 draw means that Wso are currently 11th after early days, round 2, and Rosengard, who are normally right at the top of the table, are currently 5th. They had a with that draw. There's a few other teams above them who've won 2 games. And in the other game that's of interest to Aussies, even though there are no Aussies there yet, Hammarby had a 4-1 loss against BK Häcken, which was Dylan Holmes' team from last season. So that leaves Hammarby at the bottom at the moment, so they'll be keen to get their Aussies over. And Häcken in 3rd, which is pretty much where they rightfully will be, probably throughout the season. Over in Denmark, it was round robin game 2 for both the round robins. In the championship round robin, playing for spots in the Champions League, Fortuna Hjørring had a really good, solid 4-0 away win against T. And all 3 Aussies, Angie Beard, Indy Riley and Claire Wheeler, started and finished the game. And Indy scored the 3rd goal and was interviewed afterwards. So we'll try and get some footage of that interview in the Nordic Wrap.
We love an India Paige Riley interview.
We do, yes. Yep. In the promotion relegation round robins, Jenna McCormick's AGF had a 0-0 draw against B93, which always reminds me of Beyond 90, but 3 minutes into extra time. And Jenna, unfortunately, was not on the match card for that game, still suffering a bit from that sore ankle from last week, we think. And finally, Iceland. The competition has not yet started. It fires up on April the 27th, I think. But Margot Chevet and Susan Fongsong Cam are both signed to KR Reykjavik, who've got a bit of history with Aussies. In the past, we will probably recall Grace Marr playing there, and last season, 18 Keane making every post a winner and really getting her club over the line with the promotion back into the top flight. So
Angie Beard as well? KR?
Sorry? Yeah,
KR.
Angie Beard was there before Fortuna Hjørring, that's right, yes. So, yeah, good history with Aussies, and we look forward to Margot and Susan coming on board there.
Just all the work is cranking up for you, Stefan.
There's more as well. So, I mean, this will be useless to the listeners by the time the pod comes out. But, Stefan, there's big news coming in at 8 p.m. that you'll want to pay attention to. Anyway.
All right, I'll do that. 8 p.m.
Oh, a teaser.
Okay.
It's. I got an email that's embargoed until 8 p.m. So I assume that's when it comes out.
Media elite over here.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Maybe we can get Stefan to take us through Capital Football results round 1.
Round 1, yes. So it's good to be out of the action again this weekend. One game was postponed, the game between Gungahlin United and West Canberra. But we were talking earlier about. They didn't really say, so I suspect it's something to do with a certain virus. But we were talking earlier about Nikita Perry being part of the Junior Matildas, and I was witness to her performance on the weekend at Deakin Stadium in their game against Canberra Croatia, Canberra United Academy against Canberra Croatia. Canberra United Academy are one of the few teams that have found ways to trouble Canberra Croatia on occasions the last couple of years, but they were not able to do so in their opening game of the season. All 3 games that were in round 1 were fairly one-sided. On paper, this one looked like the one that was going to be least one-sided, but that's not the way it transpired. So new coaches for both sides, Canberra Croatia under Zoran Glavinic and Sarah West, who was Canberra United's assistant coach the last 2 seasons. Taking charge of the academy right now. And the academy team, having lost Sasha Grove and who else did they lose? They've lost two attacking Anna Hunt. Anna Hunt's gone to Sydney, that's right.
Do you remember which club in Sydney?
So Sasha's gone to Spirit. I'm not
Sasha's good. Correct.
Yep, and I'm not sure about Anna. Sorry, I can't.
I'll find out.
Can't recall. Yeah. But quite a big loss for them. Those 2 were mainstays of their attacking prowess last season or 2. They've both been around for 2 seasons in that league. And the academy competed well, and in fact they scored the goal of the game with a magnificent team goal from a goal kick just playing through the defence down the right side of midfield, right across the other side of the field, and Taylor Hampson took a shot from inside the box, which was parried by Canberra Croatia's Nat Vasta in goals, into the path of Sophia Christopherson, who was captaining the academy this year, and she tucked it away. But otherwise, it was a very strong statement of intent by Canberra Croatia, who've started a bit slowly the last couple of seasons with some results they like to work. They have liked to have worked their way into games under Nick Brozanic. But their performance in the Charity Shield and in this game shows that they're, firing quicker this time around. So they're again going to be very much a force to be dealt with. Quickly in the other two games, Tuggeranong United down at Greenway had a 5-1 loss against Belconnen United, and Kira Bobbin scored a hat-trick for Belconnen. Belconnen are interesting because they've lost quite a few players to other teams, especially Canberra Olympic, who I'll talk about in a minute. The season is fascinating in that normally we don't see much movement of players around the teams, but this season has tipped all that on its head, and we've seen a swathe of talent find its way to Nicole Begg's Canberra Olympic, and that's had a bit of a ripple effect around all the other sides who have had to fill holes in players that they've lost and promote players also from their reserve grade. So it's probably the start of the season is one of the more interesting ones in recent years, I think. But yeah, 5-1 win to Belconnen, still looking with the goods. They've still got a very good squad, of course, but for the first time, I think in more than 10 years, they'll probably not be listed as one of the two favourites for the competition. That mantle will go to Olympic alongside Canberra Croatia this year, I think, at this stage. But we'll see. And then the other game, Canberra Olympic, were 11-0 up down at Wagga at half time. And they ended up winning 13-0. So that's a complete blowout. Rough start for Sam Graves players down at Wagga. And Meg Roden, who is a Canberra United Academy product, scored a hat-trick for Olympic. So, looking forward to getting out there and having a look at them soon. That's it for round one.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Speaking of interesting, Dale, I don't know if you're quite ready to announce what is a pretty exciting moment to go through some award-ish kind of things. Are you happy to do that before Queens of the Week?
I think that's a good way to lead into the Queens of the Week. So, excuse me, took the opportunity this year to kind of mix up the way that we did Player of the Season voting this year. So we've come together. The Brains Trust at Beyond 90 has come together, and we've all collectively voted for our Player of the Season in the A-League Women, our Young Player of the Season, and we've also voted on a Team of the Season. So there was a slightly different process this year in which we took the season as a whole and we allocated 5 points to the best player, 4 points to the second best, etc., etc. Everybody got 5 points. Young Player of the Year was similar. We did 3-2-1, and that was taken over the entirety of the season instead of per game. We felt that it was slightly more even that way. It's still obviously it's still an uneven draw, even though it is a longer season, but it's unfair to have, two teams at the bottom playing off for points in Player of the Year that were worth 3 instead of having that kind of judged over the course of the season. And as I said, we also voted for a Team of the Season. So I'll just bring those up for us. But it is my pleasure to announce that the 2021-22 Beyond 90 A-League Women's Player of the Season is Fiona Wurtz. Took out a fairly handy lead in the voting panel, followed closely behind by Alex Chidiac and Courtney Vine, who came in second and third. So congratulations to Fiona. One of the great A-League women's seasons in terms of goal scoring. Really, was one of the two that dragged her team through to the finals for the first time. And I think just reward for an Adelaide team that I think for many people exceeded expectation this season, which was really, really good to see. Young Player of the Season, I don't think it was much of a debate. Fairly handily won by one. Alex Chidiac from Melbourne Victory. Achieved almost double the amount of votes that the next best young player in Mackenzie Hawkesby garnered. Chelsea Dawber was player number 3 for Young Player of the Season. And in terms of the teams of the season, our team of the season reads thus. So in goals, we have Casey Dumont from Melbourne Victory. Our 4-player defensive line reads Ali Green of Sydney FC, Winona Heatley, Melbourne Victory, Matilda McNamara from Adelaide United, and Caitlin Torpey from Melbourne City. Winona Heatley from Melbourne City as well, sorry. Midfield of Mackenzie Hawkesby from Sydney, Katrina Gorry from Brisbane, Alex Chidiac from Melbourne Victory, and then a front 3 of Courtney Vine of Sydney, Fiona Wurt, captain and leading the line, and Hannah Wilkinson from Melbourne City. Reserves, basically the 5 next best. Lily Oldfield in goal, or reserve goalkeeper, Polly Doran, and Kyra Cooney-Cross from Melbourne Victory. Chelsea Dawber from Adelaide United, and Leah Privatelli as the reserve attacker. So congratulations to all those players. You have received as your prize our undying love and affection, which I believe is priceless and thus cannot be valued.
Yes.
But yeah, think a really cool way of doing it this season, just because I feel like last season we kind of valued some games too much and didn't value other games enough. But I think this is a really even way of looking. I don't think many people can argue with the top scorer as the player of the season, especially in that team.
Yeah,
We might start making young player like under 20. Because I found young player very hard. I was like,
it seems really weird. Every other competition, every other sport, it's like under 23, which again is a completely arbitrary number.
Yeah, but also 75% of the dub, which is
I was going to say it feels like should be either still at high school or in the first year of uni. Not allowed to like have moved out of home or something.
Yeah,
we need a non-numerical
just a vibes-based young player of the year. You look young enough.
Young enough. But it was funny. Like, for example, Charlotte McLean, I don't think was eligible because I feel like she's too old to be a younger defender or something like that. But yeah, there were a few like that. Anyway, so that's player of the season.
Yeah. So I like your point, Dale, about doing it this way instead of the 3-2-1s for each game, because like it or not all games are created the same for this kind of thing. They're not all the same weight, so we're doing it this way. Also, Matilda McNamara making the starting centre of events without me voting is quite something, thanks to all of you. And the other point, Winona Heatley, Matilda McNamara, Caitlin Torpey, and Mackenzie Hawkesby were in our NPL New South Wales Team of the Year last year. It's a team that Casey Dumont and Courtney Vine have also made in the past. So, yes.
Nice.
Love to see it. Shout out to Posadoza as well, a.k.a. Polygon.
Big shout out to a friend of mine and former friends, Boom Rookies podcast, who kind of inspired this. They have a MVP for rugby league that they do each season, and this was kind of taken from there. Modeled upon that model, and really, really helpful. But now I've also learned a lot of things about Microsoft Excel, so I think I'm the real winner.
Yes. Well, that's the most important thing. You set it up. You've got to be the biggest winner. Yeah.
I know. I'm garnering more life skills. That's what we really love to see.
Thank you very much, Dale. That was terrific, actually. And I enjoyed the voting process, although saying that there were quite a lot. Hot off the press, the oldest player of the season, or the best oldest player of the season, is Melissa Barbieri for sure, right? We didn't vote, but let's just call it out.
Well, I mean, Bubs was equal fifth in terms of voting. There was Hawkesby fourth, and then Dumont and Barbieri both in like equal fifth. So I think that stands testament to like how good Melissa Barbieri still is, even after 25 years at the top level.
Yes.
And while we didn't vote on it specifically, I believe coach of the season was Jeff Hopkins, based on, just the chatter that we have generally around the room.
Again, vibes based. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, right. I mean, his if his squad is still alive after 11 games in 51 days, you can be coach of the year. That's fine.
Terrific. Queens of the week. Eric, start with you.
Okay, so it's not what I put in the pod notes. I've made a late change. So my first set of Queens of the week, everyone involved at Liverpool, because they're back in the FA WSL. Shout out to them. Matt Beard, the coach, has done a great job, and shout out specifically to their Irish international trio of Niamh Fahey, Leanne Kiernan, and long throw expert Megan Campbell. Megan Campbell to, if you haven't seen the long throws, they're like Sam Starr's long throws. They're quite something to watch. And another Queen of the Week, it's been announced recently. Shout out to Football New South Wales Institute Reserves captain Chantal Medidi. She's been called up to the Philippine senior squad for their upcoming camp and 2 international games against Fiji, which will be held at Wanderers Football Park. So that's absolutely brilliant. And I will make sure I nuff her in the comps. That's.
I was going to let Madge go next, but I'm going to go next just to say that Eric stole my homework, although not entirely. So my Queen of the Week is ex-Newcastle Jets and Canberra United player Katie Stengel, who scored. They scored 4 goals, but she scored in the 59th minute for Liverpool on their way to WSL promotion. So congratulations to Liverpool. Madge, your turn.
Yeah, well, mine's like it's the history-making game between Barcelona and Real Madrid. But in particular, there were 3 outstanding goals. Your favourite cross shot, and I don't care if you want to call it a cross shot. I love them. Mappy Leon for the opening goal in the 9th minute. But my favourite goal, and check out all the goals, but my favourite goal was from Pina, absolutely rocketing it into the top left corner after chesting. I don't think the ball was even for her, to be honest, but she grabbed it and shot it. Just a beautiful goal across the keeper. The keeper couldn't get there. Great goal. Dale, your turn.
My Queen of the Week is the entire Everton women's setup for not conceding a goal for the first time in a month. It's these kind of steps that we really need to be taking to kind of not becoming third last in the league. But look, doesn't get much easier. They play Arsenal away, Arsenal at home this week, Spurs, and then Brighton to finish the season. So I think it's been a pretty tough season for Everton. They've had obviously a lot of coaching changes. I think they've had 2 coaching changes this season, and things haven't really gone to plan. But yeah, really good to see them not concede a goal against the team coming last.
Thank you very much. Stefan, I've deliberately left you last because I've made the feature image in your honour or in honour of your Queens of the Week.
You're so awesome. Thank you. Yes, you'll be, well, it's unsurprising perhaps, but my Queens of the Week are all the Canberra-based players who've made their way into the Young Matildas and Junior Matildas setups in the next week or 2. So very well done to everyone. Emil Ilioski, Chloe Lincoln, Haley Taylor Young, Sally James, Nikita Perry, and Bessie Reithmuller, who has signed for Sydney University, I believe, this NPL season. So all the best with that, Bessie, as well.
Terrific. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, everyone, for being on the pod with me talking about football. It's the highlight of my week. Thank you to everyone who's been listening to us talking about football. It's the highlight of my week. I don't know if it's the highlight of anyone else's week. For those of you who are lucky enough to be in Canberra to go see don't forget the Young Matildas games. And then if you're up in Townsville, then you'll be able to see a fantastic game, hopefully between the Matildas and New Zealand, and then more international football.
Can I just give a quick shout out? If you're going to be in Townsville, pre-game Matildas active drinks at the Australian Hotel, of course, because where else would we have them?
Highly recommend.
Where are the pre-game drinks for the Canberra game?
King O'Malley's.
Of course, the best pub in Canberra.
Of course.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening to us. My name's Cheryl Downs. Thank you again. And we'll talk to you again next week for episode 91. Bye-bye.